Somewhere in your skull right now, there is a hole in your vision, not a metaphor, an actual gap, roughly the width of your thumb held at arm's length, where the optic nerve punches through the retina and leaves no room for light-sensing cells. You have never once seen it. Not today, not in your entire life. Your brain simply fills it in, quietly, seamlessly, inventing wallpaper, sky, a stranger's face, without ever telling you it did. That should be unsettling enough on its own. But it isn't even close to the strangest thing your brain does without asking permission. Because the same machine that paints over a hole in your eye can paint over something far larger. And by the end of this video, one experiment will force you to question something most people never even realize they're assuming. First, let the blind spot sit with you for a moment. Hold up a thumb at arm's length, and somewhere near it, a piece of the world is simply missing. And your brain has decided you don't need to know that. It isn't guessing badly. It's guessing so well, you can't catch it in the act. No matter how carefully you look, you will never see the gap, because the very thing doing the looking is the thing filling it in. Now, here's where it gets disturbing. If your brain will quietly rewrite something as basic as raw eyesight, what stops it from rewriting something you'd stake your life on? A memory. In the 1990s, the psychologist Elizabeth Loftus ran an experiment that should unsettle anyone who trusts their own past. She asked ordinary people to recall a childhood memory of getting lost in a shopping mall, crying, and being rescued by an elderly stranger. There was just one problem. It never happened. The memory was invented, planted with nothing more than a gentle suggestion and a family member's false confirmation. And yet, roughly a quarter of participants didn't just accept it. They built on it. They added the stranger's cardigan, the exact aisle, the panic in their own chest. Their brains hadn't lied to them. Their brains had believed themselves completely. That result alone unsettled memory science for a decade. But it wasn't the most disturbing discovery, because scientists were about to find something that suggested your brain doesn't just invent memories. It invents your reasons for acting in real time, without you ever noticing the switch. But first, notice something happening to you right now. Your shirt is touching your shoulders. A second ago, you weren't aware of it. Now you are. Nothing changed. The sensation was there the whole time. Your brain simply decided, this instant, to let that information through. Scientists estimate your nervous system receives roughly 11 million bits of sensory information every second. Light, sound, pressure, the position of every joint. Conscious awareness processes perhaps 40 of those bits. The rest is discarded, compressed, or rewritten before it ever reaches you. Your brain isn't recording the world. It's editing it, deciding in advance what you're allowed to see, which brings us to the gorilla. By now, scientists knew something disturbing. Memory could be manipulated. But they still assumed your eyes, at least, faithfully recorded whatever was in front of them. They were wrong. In 1999, psychologists Daniel Simons and Christopher Chabris showed subjects a video of people passing a basketball and asked them to count the passes. Halfway through, a person in a full gorilla suit walks into the middle of the frame, thumps its chest, and walks off. 9 full seconds in plain sight. Roughly half the viewers never see it. Not because it was hidden, because attention is a spotlight, and whatever falls outside its narrow beam might as well not exist. And here's the part that should actually worry you. Those viewers weren't uncertain afterward. They were certain nothing unusual had happened at all. That certainty, not the errors themselves, is the real subject of this investigation. And nowhere was it exposed more completely than in the work of neuroscientist Michael Gazzaniga, studying patients whose 2 brain hemispheres had been surgically separated to stop severe epilepsy. In one experiment, an instruction was flashed only to a patient's right hemisphere, the side with no access to language, telling them to get up and walk. Ask the patient why, and the left hemisphere, which controls speech and had no idea the instruction ever existed, didn't hesitate. It didn't say, I don't know. It invented a reason instantly. I wanted to get a drink. Gazzaniga called this region of the brain the interpreter, a built-in storyteller whose job isn't accuracy. It's coherence, at any cost. The most convincing lie you'll ever hear is the one your own brain tells you. Think, for a second, about the last important decision you made. Why did you make it? You're probably answering that question right now, somewhere in the back of your mind. But after everything you've just heard, how certain are you that your reason came first, and not after? How certain are you that you didn't just do something and then hand yourself an explanation you believed on the spot? That's what changes the meaning of everything before it. The false shopping mall memory, the invisible gorilla, the invented reason for standing up. None of these are malfunctions. They're the interpreter doing exactly its job, keeping you feeling certain and in control, even when the honest answer would be, I have no idea. Which raises a question worth sitting with. If your brain will always choose a confident story over an accurate one, how much of what you call your personality, your memories, your sense of self, is narration rather than record? These weren't just laboratory curiosities. In the 1980s and 90s, hundreds of people in recovered memory therapy came to believe, sincerely and under gentle professional guidance, that they'd suffered abuses forensic investigation later found no evidence for. In some cases, families were torn apart by memories that later became the subject of intense legal and scientific dispute. Some of those cases were only overturned years later, once the courts caught up to what memory science already knew. But here's the twist most people miss. This isn't only a flaw to fear. Separate what's proven from what's still debated. It's well established that memory reshapes with every retelling. Established enough that several justice systems have changed how they handle eyewitness testimony. It's well established that attention filters out enormous amounts of the visual world. The experiments are real. What they ultimately mean about who we are, whether there's one narrator in there or two, is still one of neuroscience's biggest unanswered questions. Zoom out far enough, and this stops being a story about tricks and becomes a story about design. A creature moving through a dangerous, half-glimpsed world doesn't need a perfect record of reality. It needs a fast, confident story it can act on in half a second, long before all the facts arrive. Evolution didn't select for accuracy. It selected for a narrator good enough to keep you alive. And that narrator has been running, uninterrupted, in every human being who has ever lived, including you, right now. Every decision you've ever made, every memory you've defended, every certainty you've ever felt. It passed through the same storyteller, the one that filled in a hole in your vision so well you never even filed a complaint. And if that storyteller has been quietly editing reality since before you could talk, the question was never whether you've believed something that wasn't true. You have. Everyone has. Somewhere in your vision, right now, there's still a hole your brain is quietly filling in. The harder question is whether it's quietly filling in another one. Somewhere in the story you tell yourself, which belief are you holding right now?